The library was old, older than the rest of the convent and settlement. You could smell it in the dust, in the heavy pine scent of the wood it had been built from. The ceiling arched high above Yuzu as she slipped in through the great oaken doors, trying to keep them from falling too loudly. The windows illuminated motes of dust that swirled at her passage, gold from the setting sun sending the shelves aflame with light. A few students looked up from their scattered positions at various tables and nooks behind the shelves, but most were absorbed in their books and studies. Yuzu nodded to a few she knew as she made her way towards the back, weaving through the mismatched shelves. The shelves fell away back here, replaced only with rows of tables and more shelves lining the walls instead of standing freeform. Unlit oil lamps rested on the tables, ready to illuminate a late-night study session. She ignored these, too, walking to the door in the back and tapping the lock lightly with her pointer finger and then her ring finger. It unlocked at the touch, and she pushed through into the offices. They were mostly empty at this time of day, so her footsteps echoed a bit. "Yuzu, is that you?" Yuzu blinked back to herself, shaking her head. "Yeah, it's me, Dad," she called. She walked down the row of tiny cubicles to the one in the back, leaning her head around the corner. Her father glanced up from a notebook. He had dark circles under his eyes that indicated he hadn't slept last night. "Ugh, Dad," she said, rolling her eyes. "Did you forget what time it was?" "What do you mean? What time is it? Isn't it 5? "It's 10. In the morning." Her father stared wide-eyed at her for a moment. He fumbled into his pocket for his watch and clicked it open. With a muffled sound that might have been a swear, he shot to his feet and almost fell over. Yuzu had to grab him by the sleeve to prevent him from crashing onto his desk. "I can't believe I forgot to sleep again. Oh, I haven't eaten either." "I figured," Yuzu said, rolling her eyes. "I know you want to be the best teacher, Dad, but you don't have to kill yourself doing it." Her father gave her a sheepish, lopsided grin, and she just rolled her eyes and smiled. She tugged on his sleeve. "Come on, let's get you some breakfast." "You're a good kid, Yuzu," he said, clapping her on the shoulder. "Always coming to check on your hopeless dad." "I wouldn't have to if you'd stop being so hopeless," she said, but she laughed. They made their way out of the office space. "Are you done with lessons already?" he asked on the way back through the library. "This is my free period," she said. "I'm actually supposed to be meditating in the sanctuary right now." Her father made a soft tutting sound, but he grinned at her with crossed eyes. She grinned back, sticking out her tongue. "And you came to see your old man instead? I'm flattered you put me ahead of the goddess on the priority list." Yuzu snorted, putting her hand over her mouth. Her father let out one of his huge, echoing laughs, too, drawing a few glares from studying students. They left the library quickly, stepping back out into the sunlight. "Actually," Yuzu said, as the door swung shut behind them, I had some questions I needed answered. Ones that the goddess probably couldn't answer for me." She tugged on the end of her tunic, twisting it between her hands. Her father paused mid-step, then started walking again to keep up with Yuzu's pace. His longer legs managed to overtake her quickly, and he walked a little ahead of her so that he could lean over and meet her eyes. "What's going on?" he said. Yuzu's hands released her tunic, and she reached for her bracelet instead, starting to twist it around her wrist. How would she phrase it? Could she even bring it up without telling her father that she and the girls had been out of bed in the middle of the night when they were supposed to be kept safely in the dorms? And what about whatever was watching them? Yuzu still felt like they should have reported that to the monks, even if it meant getting in trouble. She realized with a start that she had stopped walking, her thoughts causing her to pause. Her father waited patiently for her to talk again. She licked her lips. "Where did this come from?" She lifted her arm so that her bracelet caught the light. For a moment, her father's lips parted, and he just stared at it. "Your bracelet?" he said. He rubbed his chin, eyes narrowing. "You've almost always had that thing, haven't you?" he said. "Where did it come from?" "You mean you don't know either?" Yuzu said, arm dropping to her side in shock. "Babies aren't just born with a bracelet, you know." "I didn't say that," he said, holding up a hand. "Give me a second. I think... No, you definitely didn't have it before we moved out of the capital. He rubbed his hand over his mouth, eyes growing distant. That's weird, he said. It feels a little hazy. He squinted at her briefly. You went back near the temple walls back then, didn't you? When we were trying to get on a caravan out of the city. Yuzu's breath caught. He was talking about the day that she saw the boy in the balcony, when her blessing appeared. Yeah, she said. That was 5 years ago. Right, her father said, and his eyes lit up. Hang on, didn't that woman give it to you? What woman? She showed up after I came to grab you. I was really scared, you know, young lady, wandering off without me, especially in the capital. Sorry, Yuzu said, wincing. But no, I don't remember. What woman? He shrugged. She was about my age, back then at least. I think. Hard to tell with that cloak she was wearing. I was running looking for you, and I found her standing next to you, holding your hand. She told me that you were all right. And I think you were holding the bracelet then. She must have given it to you, right? Yuzu's head spun. What woman? She didn't remember this at all. And yet... Something sparked a bit at the back of her mind. Something like a voice. Hang on to this and stay strong, a voice whispered in her memory. Keep smiling like you did today, and everything will be all right. She put a hand to her forehead. The world felt all of a sudden hazy, and she felt a little dizzy. Her father reached for her. He grabbed her elbow to steady her. Yuzu, are you all right? Fine, she mumbled. Sorry, I felt a little dizzy for a second there. Maybe I need some water. A wrenching gust of wind suddenly exploded past them, almost knocking Yuzu off her feet. She heard someone yelp and a few shouts raise up, and then a loud, shrieking cry. Let go of me! Let go of me! Let go of me! Let go of me! For a moment, the panic spiked in Yuzu's chest, and her father gripped her so tightly that she couldn't breathe. A nun appeared around the corner of the trees then, dragging a struggling Rin back down the path. Rin kept shrieking, digging her heels into the ground, wheeling her free arm, trying to actually swipe at the nun. She was releasing huge bursts of wind from her direction, which was what had caused the gust. Yuzu's heart rate slowed. Rin tried to run away again, she thought. But why? We were going to try and do that together. Let go! Let go! Rin shrieked. Apprentice Rin, this has gone too far, the nun said, her voice distant but moving closer as they got nearer to Yuzu and her father. This is the 16th time at the very least. You might find yourself removed from the champion-elect at this rate. Good! Rin screamed in the woman's face. Then I can leave this goddess-forsaken place and go find Hugo. The woman shook her head at Rin, looking more than just frustrated. Rin kept screaming and dragging her feet as she was hauled back towards the convent. She'd be taken to see the abbess again. And then she'd probably be locked up in solitary meditation again, and Yuzu would be alone in their dorm for the next few days, and no, they'd miss out on their chance to run away together. What was Rin thinking? I'll be back, Yuzu said, struggling out of her father's grip. For his part, he didn't try to cling to her and let her go. She bolted down the path and across the grass towards the struggling Rin. Rin, she shouted. Rin's eyes flashed back towards Yuzu. Yuzu jogged to the same pace as the nun, who only gave her a cursory glance. Rin, what are you doing? Yuzu said, her voice cracking. Why did you... I had a nightmare after... Rin's eyes flashed towards the nun, and Yuzu knew she was talking about after we did the thing we weren't supposed to do and went out to the shrine in the middle of the night. It was Hugo. He was hurt and crying, and he was trying to get away. It was real, Yuzu. It felt real. Hugo's in trouble, and I have to get to him. Apprentice Rin, what you need to do is remember your duty as a champion-elect, the nun said. Apprentice Hiragi, if you would please return to your assigned location for the hour. But... The nun gave Yuzu a look, and Yuzu came to a halt. She watched, helpless, as Rin screamed and struggled against being dragged back to the convent. Her voice echoed and clattered around in Yuzu's brain long after she disappeared into the walls of the convent. "He needs me! Yugo needs me! He's a big stupid baby who can't do anything without me. He's hurt and scared and he needs me!"